Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. 3 stakes races on tap at beautiful Belmont Park on Saturday. We are hoping the weather cooperates for the 2 turf races, one of them being race number 4, the $100,000 Awad Stakes for 2-year-olds going a mile on the Widener. Rain or shine, you can bet the Belmont Saturday card with a new DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. Here's the field for the Awad. Again, 2-year-olds running for $100 grand, going 1 mile on the Widener turf. Mike, probably this race is going to be washed off if the meteorologists are correct, but we'll handicap it for turf right now. And let's kick things off with the horses coming out of the Laurel Futurity, beginning with the number 9, Order and Law, who made a successful turf debut that day. That was a very fast pace over a very yielding turf. And Order and Law was nowhere to be seen till about the 16th pole, and he was able to grind them down.
That's the truth. I mean, the race, in a lot of ways, just set up really well for him because, as you mentioned, the pace, even though it's hard to tell when you just look at it on paper, looking at the fractions, they were moving up front in that race, a very boggy turf course, and he was just on the scene very late to just get up in there. The race set up very well for him, but it was a successful turf debut for this horse. He's run pretty well in each of his last 2 starts, so I suspect if he can stretch out, then I guess he's, one of the logical players in this race. We'll see what kind of price he goes off at.
I'd gamble that he will stretch out as Dam's a half to a multiple grade 3 place turf runner, Daddy's Kid, and another grade 3 place turf router. So I think Order and Law will at least be able to get the mile. It's not like we're asking him to go a mile and a quarter here. And as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, he might get a similar situation as the one he received in the Laurel Futurity. We are expecting, or at least Timeform US is expecting, a fast pace on tap. That coupled with a wet turf course, nearly identical conditions. Something tells me this is a stronger field.
Yeah, I think it's probably a stronger field too. We'll see what happens. It's not, although it's worth pointing out, it's only going to be a 6-horse field at best if we're on the turf. And it's not like there's any killers in here so far. It's a bunch of horses who just broke their maidens aside of the horse who just won the Laurel Futurity. Yeah, and so we'll see about how the pace plays out. I would be surprised if they were blazing up front, but maybe they will.
I wouldn't argue with anyone that said that the 4th place finisher in the Laurel Futurity, Absolved, ran every bit as well as the winner because he broke like a shot that day. He was tracking that fast pace and right up on top of it. He was steadied a little bit in mid-stretch, and he stayed on.
Yeah, he did.
Like the kind of horse that would be appreciative of more ground. He's by Blame, is from the female family of Vindication. Stretching out shouldn't be a problem.
He's supposed to be able to get at least this far. He did. It seemed to me too that even though he didn't get it done in Laurel Futurity, I think he ran the best race of his life last time. In his first turf start. His dirt form is okay. They've dangled him for a tag a couple of different times on the main track, but I think he's a better turf horse.
Todd Pletcher is the 6th Empire of War in this race. Todd won the Awad in 2015 with Mountain Music Man. And Empire of War, you just had the feeling. I know that he's a half to Separation of Powers, multiple grade 1 winner on the dirt, but he's by declaration of war. And as we've seen, these declaration of wars take to the turf, like Todd Pletcher's Opry. Empire of War, I thought, was really good in his maiden race. I know he got to an easy lead winning it, but it was just a comfortable performance. Here's a Todd formulator fact for Empire of War. Past 3 years, 2-year-old last out maiden winners jumping up into non-graded stake turf routes, 50% winners, 75% in the money, and a 483 ROI. Maybe he controls this pace.
Yeah, he might. I mean, easy trip or not last time, he clearly took a big step forward in his first turf start because his 2 dirt races, they were both on wet tracks, but to be honest, he didn't run well in either of his 2 dirt starts. He was a lot better last time, but he also had just everything go his own way. He had no trouble clearing to the lead from the outside post. It's worth mentioning that was at a time when the rails had come down on the Widener turf course. You wanted to be right on the inside. He got right to the inside and never took any pressure up there. He did take a big step forward, though. Listen, I have no problem with him being the horse to beat in this race. I don't know how good this horse actually is, though.
Remarkably similar running lines with the 7 Honorable Hero, a horse that ran 2 duds on the dirt, switched to the turf for the first time, showed good early speed. I thought set a legitimate pace considering the yielding ground that day, and won very nicely for a rejuvenated Gary Contessa barn. This horse is going to be taking on Open Company for the first time in his career, a couple of other speeds, but I liked the improvement he showed last time.
I did too. That was a nice win for this horse, and if nothing else, we've learned from this recent Belmont fall meet, dismiss these Contessa horses at your own peril. Even when they're big prices, as this horse was, they're just showing up and running right now. So I won't be surprised if this horse just backs that maiden win up very well in this spot. We'll see if he can get to the front, though, with Pletcher's horse to his inside.
I'm guessing Old Mole is going to go to the front, and Pletcher and Contessa are going to sit because Old Mole is likely to be the longest shot on the board. He was 70-1 when overmatched in the Pilgrim, and the trip didn't do him any favors either. Off awkwardly, rushed up to set a legitimate pace over that yielding turf course. He was a nice front-running maiden winner 2 starts back, but in very slow time. He's got to prove he can run fast.
Yeah, he does. I mean, they're going to press on with him and run him in another stakes race here. I didn't love his maiden win first time on turf, and obviously, even if it was overmatched last time, I mean, he never looked like he was going to win that race.
Let's take a look at our top picks for race number 4, the Awad Stakes. Turf picks only. We hope we stay on the turf. Let's talk about the 5, A Thread of Blue, going out for Kieran McLaughlin. It's only raced once on the turf, finished second to Current. That horse came back to win the Bourbon with an 83 and is headed for the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. He broke his maiden last time in an off-the-turf race where he just got to the lead. I don't think that was necessarily the strongest field. I thought he ran fine in his turf debut. He got a really good trip in that race, but he showed that he can handle the turf. He's a hard spun. He's bred for this. I just like that race that he's coming out. I think that was a really good maiden race, and I think he ran well in it. The other horses in here, who were especially the ones who are going to take money, they just didn't do a lot for me. I'll take a shot with this horse.
If Dylan Davis had to do it over again, he would have stayed in. He had the pocket on the turn, and he decided he wanted to spin 4 wide turning into the stretch, and he didn't think the speeds maybe would keep going. I think he had a shot up the rail at there to at least finish closer to Current, but he ran well, all things considering. And I love his pedigree. His dam was a Group Stakes winner. There are a lot of horses underneath this dam that were that earned black type. A Thread of Blue is very, very logical. He's your top pick in here. I'm hoping for a similar situation with Order and Law. I think he drifts off the 5-2 morning line. I think that Todd's taking money. I think that A Thread of Blue is taking money in here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Absolved. A lot of people think he ran the better race in the Laurel Futurity. I think Order and Law is going to drift in price. I think he's getting a similar situation in here, but I'd need at least 5-1 to play him in the Awad. 9-6-4-5 for me. Mike's going with the 5, A Thread of Blue in the Awad. Bet it with a DRF Bets account and the 300% deposit match that goes along with it. Bets.drf.com for more information. Approximate post time for the Awad, one of 3 stakes at Belmont on Saturday, 2:22 Eastern. Good luck.